Hey y'all, welcome back to Healthy Design. I thought today we'd talk a little bit more about diet. Um, we're going to keep this very basic, so I'm not going to get into all the different possible types of diets you could do. I mean, there's endless things. Some of that depends on what your goal is, like which one might be better for you, what you respond well to. So there's all kinds of variations there, but let's keep this really, really basic today. We'll get into really just kind of how to eat healthier is going to be the main focus, and then we can tie that into a little bit of weight gain, weight loss, how that kind of works, or what I've seen with clients primarily is what I want to address there. Um, I guess to keep it extremely basic and extremely easy, the way to eat healthier is to eat real food. Um, so if it's got, if you look at a package and it's got all these different, names and different lists of ingredients, and if you can't pronounce them, then it's not real food. It's something that was made. That doesn't mean never ever have it, because that would kind of be boring and we'd miss out on things we enjoy too, but we want to limit those foods. Justin Harris, he was a bodybuilder, he's a bodybuilding coach. One of the things, or the way he'll kind of phrase it, is if you can't pick it, kill it, or grow it, you don't need to eat it, or at least not often. And so I think that's an easy way. So I think too often people complicate diet in general, but also people really like recipes, and they want to combine all these different things together. And I mean, that tastes good, there's no doubt about it, but I think it makes it harder to follow things, and it's also harder to know exactly how much of something you're getting. So what I think actually is a great way to simplify things and make it easier is to really primarily eat like single ingredient food. So, if you get chicken, it's just chicken. You get lettuce, it's just lettuce. And then, I mean, you could add in carrot, but that's a carrot. You add in an onion, that's an onion. You may combine a lot of different things and make a salad, but it's all single ingredients put in. It's not this huge combination of ingredients all in one that has different ratios of, protein, carbs, fats. And then it gets real hard to know what you're eating. And so I think that's one of the best ways to do it. If you've been eating a certain way, if you're eating like the standard American diet, we talked about this before. The problem with it is it's very high in fat and it's very high in carbohydrates. You can't be healthy if you have both of those being high. Basically, what I think happens is it's just too much energy coming in, because carbohydrates are a fuel source, fat is a fuel source, and you get too much of that in there, the mitochondria in our cells can't. It's they get overburdened, so they're overloaded. They can't manage everything. That ends up leading to issues. That goes on long enough, and that cell gets damaged. Enough cells get damaged, that tissue's damaged, and it continues on from there. So if we can eat like those single ingredient things, and not go high fat and high carb, there's plenty of people that have been able to get healthy, or lose weight, whatever it is, lose body fat, gain weight. um, People have done that with a high fat diet and a low carb, and people have done that with a low fat high carb diet. So you can do that. My preference, so what tends to work better for me is to go back and forth between the two, really. So I like, if I'm trying to lose weight, lean out, lose some body fat, then I do prefer to go on the low carb, a little bit higher fat. I always keep my protein intake high. I think that's one of the big keys too. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I like to do that for most days of the week, and then have some time, a couple days or whatever, where I have higher carb, lower fat, protein. Depending on the amount of carbs, I might actually bring the protein down just a little bit, but it's still a good moderate to high protein diet. And that works well for me. Maybe that works well for you, maybe it doesn't. I personally don't like the high carb all the time, because if I eat a lot of carbs, I get hungry. And so that makes it harder to lose weight, because I'm hungry, I'm constantly thinking about food. And when you're constantly thinking about food, it's hard to hold off and not eat the food. You can do it for so long, and then, at least for me, I kind of cave and then I eat too much. So if I go low carb, higher fat, keep the protein up there real high, I'm not as hungry as I would be on that higher carb, low fat diet. In the beginning stages of a diet, trying to lose body fat, I'm actually not even hungry at all switching to that. Now, as I get further into it, then yes, hunger does start to become an issue. When you're trying to get very lean, that's always going to become an issue at some point. There's no getting around that. But again, if you're just trying to eat healthier, the biggest thing I think is to just start eating real food. If you do that, you're probably going to be avoiding those high fat, high carb combinations all at once. And so, what I would say on that is, most of your meals, eat eat it where it's the real food, and then have like a meal or maybe two meals. So you have the weekend where you can go out with your family and eat things. Be normal with your family, enjoy things. So go out to a restaurant, don't worry about stuff. That way you won't feel deprived. If I tell you you can never ever have donuts again, what's the first thing you think about? I want some donuts. So with this, you can have things, you just need to have it at times. You can't have something every single day, every single meal, and expect to get the results that you want, but you can still have things and not deprive yourself completely. And so kind of switching that mindset from I can't have this to where I won't have this now. I will have that at another time. That psychological shift, although it seems very, very small and very, very minor, it can be huge. So that's one thing I'd really recommend doing. Like I've said before, I am more biased toward that lower carbohydrate side. One, it works well for me again when I'm trying to lose body fat, but I've also got a bias because I'm working with people that have different health issues, and so there's probably a lot of times there's some blood sugar dysregulation and different things like that, and so we know in that case too that lower carb, higher fat diet is going to be better in those cases. There's also some research showing that lowering carbohydrate intake can actually decrease pain for people. Again, carbohydrates tend to be pro-inflammatory, and so that could be another danger signal coming into the brain, leading to the increased pain. So that's part of my reason for it. Am I trying to say the only way in the world to be healthier with your diet is to eat low carb and high fat all the time, never ever straying from it? No, I'm not. Again, I think because of my bias, what I see kind of on a day in, day out basis, I tend to think most people would benefit from that. Now, again, that does not mean that the people that I see day in and day out represent the average population. So keep that in mind. And I think that's what happens a lot of times when you have a guru or someone who's like, oh, you have to do this. This is what it takes to be healthy. It's their bias coming in based on what they've seen. So hopefully they're not purposely lying to you just to try to sell something. That could be the case. We know people are people. But I think a lot of times they are coming from a good place. They want to help you out. And this is what they've seen help a lot of people. And so then the natural assumption or jump is to think this is what everybody needs. But we can't really say that. With all the research stuff that you look at, you'll see they'll tell you what it does, and it'll be the average over that group. And so that means you have some people that responded really, really well, some people that responded okay, they got some gains or whatever. And then you had some people that didn't respond at all, and then you have people that had negative response, maybe it was minor, and other that had a very significant negative response. So they're going to be along that spectrum somewhere, and that means we will fall somewhere on that spectrum too. But you may have had, like, if it's a real small study, let's just say you had 4 people in the study, and you had, let's say it was a fat loss, and so they did X, and the average fat loss was 5 pounds in a week. And so you see that you had like 2 people that lost nothing in that week. One person actually gained 3 pounds, but then one person lost 10 pounds. Well, then that average of all those together is going to be different. And it may not be the numbers I came up with. I was just throwing numbers off the top of my head. But you can see how that skews things. But the title or what will probably get reported on the news, reported on the internet is, oh, you do this and you'll lose 5 pounds a week. Well, no. Maybe you will, but for most people, actually, if we go by that study, either most people are going to gain weight or to have nothing happen. But there will be that one rare person who sees great results with it. So just keep that in mind whenever you hear anything. Does that mean never try something? No, it means give it a shot and see. If you follow like some of the other videos where I post what I do for weight training and different things in climbing, fat loss, I'll try a lot of different things just to see. That's why I like this. It's kind of like my science experiment. And yes, it's just an N of one study, but I am that one, so it does make a difference for me. Doesn't mean it'll make a difference for you, but it may give you some ideas. And I mean, a lot of times there's some sound principles behind things. So you can definitely use those principles and apply them in a different way. That's what I really like about things, is trying to find the underlying principle. What's similar between all these things. So take again fat loss, for example. What is the common trend that we tend to see for people that are able to lose weight? You know, well, with the diet, it could be a carnivore diet, could be a vegan diet, could be vegetarian, could be all kinds of different things, but we do see where there's a decrease in calories. I mean, sometimes if you go from eating, or drinking Coke all the time to drinking water, even if you're still eating the same amount, you're going to get a whole lot less calories, especially if you're drinking a couple 2 liters a day. That's a whole bunch of sugar and carbohydrates come in. You change that out just to water. That might be the only change you need to do, and you can see significant weight loss for a while, and body fat loss as long as you're exercising and doing some other things too. So that's why I say we want to eat healthier. And so if you've been eating a specific way for a long period of time, what will work for some people is to just make one small change. So again, maybe that's just taking out sodas and soft drinks. So instead of drinking a Coke at every meal, you drink water at every meal, but then on Saturday and Sunday, you have a Coke with one meal each day. That way you still get to have your soft drink, you just don't have it all the time. I mean, and if you really, really having a hard time, maybe you just cut down to where you only have a Coke once a day and that's it. And then you can kind of keep making some changes from there. So try to find a small change that you can do and be consistent with. With most things, I'll go ahead and say everything. Being consistent is the key. It's not about making some huge change and getting this huge short-term result. It's about making small, consistent changes. So make a change and just be consistent with it over time and get a habit set and kind of change your patterns. That tends to lead to the best results. And so then, once you've done that for a while, like taking out the Coke, then maybe there's something else you can clean up a little bit. So let's say you tend to have a dessert every night. Well, just have a dessert 3 times a week. So I mean, you're still having it often, but not all the time. And so you can do these small changes and see. Now, is that going to work for everybody? Nope. Everybody's different. So some people, they're either all in or all out. And so for them, maybe they need to make several different changes, or maybe it's that they got to get rid of Coke completely. So you got to kind of know yourself, know your personality, know what works for you. Some of that you got to just try things and see. So give something a shot. Try it for a couple weeks. If it doesn't work for you, don't beat yourself up that it didn't work. Just, okay, that's not what's going to work for me. I need to try something different. So keep going like that, and you'll figure things out over time. We've got time with all this. We don't have to rush and get everything right now, because one, we won't get all the results that we want right now. It's going to take time. It's going to be a process. We're going to have to learn some things. We're going to make mistakes. That's fine. They're learning experiences. Doesn't mean we're a failure. And that's how we got to view things. It's a learning experience. We're going to learn from it. It's going to help make us better. That's a good thing. So what I've seen with people, I've given people similar diets where eating real food, focusing on this. Say it's low carb most days of the week, and then kind of having a higher day, just once a week starting out. So kind of a carb night approach from kefir. I've had great results with that with people. And with some people, they'll end up losing some body weight. I've had other people do it and they actually gain some weight. What I find interesting with that is once we kind of change things, the focus for, let me back up. The focus for both of those groups, like it wasn't for this one group to lose weight, and it wasn't the focus to gain weight. The focus was just to get healthier. So I don't think it was merely just the diet changes that we made, but I think some of the other changes we made addressing the foundations of health that made this possible. So I think as people get healthier, if their body weight needs to go down some, it does. And then if their body weight needs to go up some, it does. So I think, possible explanations for it. If someone needs to lose weight, maybe they're stressed, there's a lot of inflammation, which means there's a lot of water weight and stuff too. So maybe it wasn't even all body fat. But as we kind of address those things, the stress comes down, the inflammation comes down, the water weight goes, and they lose a few pounds. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. Maybe they actually did lose some body fat or something too, because now they've got the reserves to be able to burn that up. And rather than their body freaking out and having to use reserves to deal with stress rather than having it left over for other things. Same for the people that gain weight. Maybe they're so stressed out, their body's using all these reserves to deal with all these different stressors coming in that when we take some of that load off, now their body has the energy to gain some weight, build a little bit of muscle. Yeah, it's possibilities. I don't know. The goal, I think, at least when you're first starting out, even if it is to, you want to lose 10% of your body weight or lean out for summer like I want to, the first thing is to start, I think, to try to be healthier. Um, and again, I just think that's easier when we eat those kind of single ingredient foods. So, you know, common meals would be some type of protein source. So chicken, again, I'm biased towards animal protein. If you want to do, vegetarian or vegan, it can be done. Just know you got to take some supplements too to help get some nutrients that you won't get via the diet. But I like animal protein because it's easier to get what you need. There's a lot of good nutrients in there as well beyond just protein. So that's why I'm biased towards that. And so, it's very easy to have some type of protein source, whether it's fish, chicken, red meat, turkey, whatever. And then just have some veggies. And, can't go wrong with green leafy vegetables. They're not going to add in a whole lot of calories, but you do get some nutrients from there too. And then one thing people miss out on is adding spices and herbs to your food. They're very nutrient dense, so it's another way to get nutrients in. Makes things taste better too. And I think Rob Wolf had a little, I don't know what to call it, but he would say like, pick a protein. So he'd have like different proteins listed down, pick a vegetable, have a spice, and then I think it was maybe like a fat source. So like olive oil or coconut oil or something. And he's like, just pick one from each group, each meal. And he's like, you could put different combinations down. Like, yeah, some of them aren't going to taste that good, but you're still kind of covering your nutrient basis for the most part. So that's just kind of an easy way to do things and kind of get away from the recipes and where you got all these things mixed in, and it makes things simpler. It's easier to cook that way too when you're just either grilling something, roasting something, instead of having to combine everything and then bake it for a long time and add this in here and then add this in at this time. So it can simplify things too, which can take a load off of us as well. If it's too stressful trying to cook everything, even if it's good, healthy food, it might end up being negative. I guess along those lines, like one thing I'll share a lot of times with my clients is, I grew up going to see movies with my dad, and we would get popcorn at the movie theater and drink Coke, And so whenever I go see a movie now, I'm going to get popcorn and I'm going to drink a Coke. Do I think it's healthy, the movie theater popcorn and the Coke? No, but it reminds me of things I did with my dad. So those are good memories and I enjoy it and I don't worry about it. I'm not going to see a movie every day. I'm not going to see a movie every week or even every month. So it's not an often type thing. So whatever impact it's having on my health is negligible at best, probably nothing. If I were to stress about it, I think that would have a bigger impact, a bigger negative impact than even just having the popcorn and the Coke. Now I don't get the butter on there because it just tends to upset my stomach. If it didn't upset my stomach, I'd get the movie theater butter on there too. But it does, so I don't have to worry about that. All right, so let's try to say that your goal is to actually lose weight. If your weight's been stable, eating kind of what you've been eating, then to keep this as basic as we possibly can, if you just make that one small change, like again, let's say you're having Coke at every meal, just to where you go to have Coke either once a day or a few times a week, that alone right there will probably drop enough calories to where you see some fat loss for a week, 2 weeks, or a few weeks. Who knows how long it'll be? It kind of depends. But just make that one change. So I think too often people think all the changes have to be huge, or there's got to change everything all at once. Now, if you're that all-in person, maybe you do need to make all those changes at once. But if you want to go a little bit more steady and slow, and you do better kind of making one change at a time, getting that kind of ironed into part of your personality, part of your daily life, then do that. So pick one small thing you can do. Get rid of the soft drinks most days. All right, now that you've done that, what else can you do? Okay, well, I'm having ton of rice at every single meal. All right, then pick one meal, like say for lunch, where you have a salad instead. So I mean, you could do these small changes where you end up losing a few, 100 calories, or maybe even several hundred, depending on what you're doing. And that's going to lead to losses for you that you can sustain over time. It also helps to establish patterns and behavior change that you can then keep following to maintain that weight loss. And so I think that's a big thing, that people will go on a diet or change things up because they want to be healthier, but they think they're going to make those changes for 6 weeks or even 6 months, and then they're going to go back to what they were doing before. I mean, you can do that and you'll make progress in that 6 weeks to 6 months, but once you go back to what you were doing, it's a matter of time before you're back in the same spot that led to you wanting to make those changes in the first place. So what we have to think about is making some behavior changes, lifestyle changes that we can keep, that we can be consistent with and keep following for a long period of time. And so, making those small changes one by one, that's an easy way to do it. And I do think the key there is not depriving yourself of having something ever. I don't think there is a bad food. Like I said, I tend to favor more the low carb side, but like on the weekend, I eat carbs, especially during the fat loss phases. I like that to help replenish glycogen, help keep training, up there so I can train hard. So like yesterday, I probably ate 600, 700 grams of carbohydrates. Today I'm going to have 240 grams. But now during the week, my carbohydrate intake will be pretty low. I'd say probably 50 grams or less. So Monday through Friday, that's probably how it's going to be. So I do kind of like those changes. As I've said again, I think for health, it's good to have some times where we're kind of in a famine mode, we're not eating as much, and then a time where we're in kind of feast mode where we are eating more. So, we're kind of building up during that feast phase, so it's more anabolic, and then during that famine phase, we're eating less, so it is a little bit more catabolic. That helps our body clean out things and then build up, clean out things, build up. And so I think that's a key thing for health, and we need kind of those times. We can't always be up here or always down here. I think kind of moving in and out is a good thing. Has worked well for me. I've seen it work well for a lot of my clients too. So I think that's some real basic things. That's probably enough rambling for today. So next week we'll talk more about maybe kind of setting things up, how to do things to lose body fat. Let's see what we're kind of middle to end of March. So people are probably feeling the weather getting better with springtime, understanding that summer's right around the corner. They probably want to be, look better when they put on a bathing suit, or who knows, maybe they have a wedding or something like that to go to. So that's probably, that kind of clock's probably ticking in people's heads a little bit more. So we'll talk more about it. So hopefully you can do it in a healthy way. There's a lot of crash diets that aren't very good, but we'll kind of get a little bit into that next time. So hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye.